Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Let's try this again. I tried it the first time. I have, like I said before, a few friends over here playing chess. And my dogs got loose. I have two. I have one pit bull that's a rescue. Bo, he's the big one. He's like 80 pounds. And Pitsu, he's the asshole. He's a pit bull Shih Tzu mix. They got downstairs. And dude was like, help, help. And I was, Bo was trying to eat him. And at that point, Bo was excited and trying to get him upstairs. So that's where that was. So what I want to talk about on this one. This one is going to be relatively fast, but I didn't necessarily want it to pass by without giving notice. So when we think of all the things that take place over the world, all the vagaries, all the injustices, and in each case, by measure, of course, by certain degrees, there's resistance. There's people who push back. There's people who tell the truth. There's people who do this in situations where they're completely unsafe and immensely vulnerable, and they do it anyway. For them, they believe that the truth is more important than a certain amount of safety. That's a brave thing, man. And that is not necessarily the norm in regards to the way people behave in these situations. Yes, there's going to be a percentage of people who do it, but still, when they do it, they should be recognized for it. I didn't want this to kind of just slide through, the dustbin of history with nobody knowing who this guy is. At the very least, using my voice to kind of put his name up. This is Bahraini activist Nabeel Rajab, or Rajab. Nabeel or Nabeel, Rajab or Rajab. It's one of them. This is amazing. They're locking this guy up for tweeting and for giving an interview. For tweeting and giving an interview. They called it quote-unquote fake news. I love it. Human rights defender Nabeel Rajab has been sentenced to 2 years in prison in Bahrain for broadcasting fake news. A court ruled that he undermined the prestige of the kingdom. The state news agency reports the prestige of the kingdom. If you're so undermined by somebody reporting something, that's embarrassing, man. If you have to go to those steps of putting people in prison when those people are telling the truth because you're so sensitive about your image, you're so tender about your image. I was in Bahrain. I went to an airport. It was when I was traveling. I think this was back in 2008. And I'm in the airport waiting to get on the flight. And you have a bunch of guys, mostly Muslim, walking in and out. And somebody sits at my table, just randomly. He says, hi. I said, hi back. He said, do you mind if I sit here? I'm from the South. I don't pretty much talk to anybody. I don't mind if you sit here. And he strikes up a conversation. And in this conversation, he doesn't want anything. He just wants to talk. He's telling me about his wives. He's telling me how much he loves his country, how much he loves his king, how much he's like, for my job, I go out and I connect people together, and then I come back home to my wives. V-E-S, W-I-V-E-S, multiples. He seemed to be loving his life. Now, this, of course, is a different impression of Bahrain. I hope the guy is loving his life, because there are people in that country that apparently are not. They locked this guy up. Rights groups have condemned the decision as an assault on free speech that goes beyond an assault on free speech. Nabeel Rajab, or Rajab, I'm sorry pronouncing his name that poorly, which is president of the Center for Human Rights, also risks further jail time and political tweets. The sentence is related to an interview he did with a television journalist in 2015. Imprisoning Nabeel Rajab is simply sharing his opinion as a flagrant violation of human rights and an alarming sign that Bahrain authorities will go to any length to silence criticism, said Sally Shetty, Amnesty International Secretary General. I want you to notice something here, though. Let me get to the bottom of what he said first. He's 52. He spent the last year in prison. All right. So in 2016, he was arrested and jailed over his tweets about alleged torture in Bahraini prison system and Saudi coalition war in Yemen. Charges include spreading false rumors in a time of war, insulting public authorities, the Interior Ministry, and insulting a foreign country. Although a court ordered his release in December, he was arrested almost immediately, rearrested almost immediately. He has also faced fake news accusations since writing an opinion piece in the New York Times about Bahraini political prisoners last year. Think about what the United States does. When we take certain news and we twist that news, so a Republican would come out and say, we're going to save healthcare by destroying healthcare. We're going to have, we're going to make America great again. What does that mean? Tax cuts for the rich. Tax cuts. We're going to do tax cuts. We're going to fuck over the environment even worse. Political speech is so fluid and flexible that it's used intentionally to lie, to obfuscate. Speech, in this sense, has no technical quality to it. It's purely just there to kind of grease the wheels in regards to getting people to believe something that's probably not true. Now, he's coming out and telling the truth, saying, yeah, you guys are murdering Yemenis. You guys are starving Yemenis. And yes, you have torture in your prisons. All of those things are perfectly true. They don't like those things. If you don't like those things, why don't you change those things, as opposed to trying to attack the person who's actually making it up? Meaning, own your shit. Own it. If you're going to torture people in your prisons, say you torture people in your prisons, and own it. If you don't like torture, if you think he's spreading rumors about you, that's in some insinuation that you don't like the idea of torture. You think it's offensive in some way. Then why are you doing it? Then why are you doing it? The problem here is not the person who's telling the truth. The problem here is the person who wants to keep the lie. That's the problem. Yes, I'm going to say this guy's name, and I'm sorry I've messed his name up the entire time, but ultimately it boils down to he's a truth teller. And even in a situation where he is under threat, literally imprisoned for telling the truth. Imagine that reality. You are literally put in prison for telling the truth. We have that here in our country also, when they're locking people up for espionage, and that espionage had nothing to do with it. From our context, we look at that and say, holy shit, they're locking this guy up for tweeting, for telling the truth. Saying that he was spreading false narratives. Is there any difference than Edward Snowden releasing information showing that the United States government was surveilling everybody, essentially committing an illegal crime? It's a whistleblower by default, by definition. That didn't stop them from going after him. And yes, they probably would have prosecuted him for espionage. In no way is that espionage. What Manning released was not espionage. We murdered somebody, and they said, hey, we got to get that guy for spreading those rumors, making us look bad. It's the same thing. In your context, you're used to it because you're an American, so you're used to it. That guy does that, they lock the guy up for espionage. It sounds like it's, you know, a real thing, and so it seems all official. From our context, looking at that, you're locking this guy up for a tweet. It seems absolutely absurd to lock him up for a tweet, and it seems even more absurd to call it fake news. It's the same thing. That's all I'm saying. Whether you're in their context or ours, their context may be different by a matter of degrees, but ultimately those things are the same. If you're going to lock somebody up for espionage when they're a whistleblower, yeah, you're casting what that person did in a particular light. That's not necessarily the full context of why they did it. That's a lie. Ultimately, it's a lie. Nabeel Rajab. Clap of the hand. He's getting ill, apparently, from being in solitary confinement. Most of the time he's been there, he's been in solitary confinement. Look, man, there are people who have acts of resistance every day. Just small, unnamed people doing their thing, just having these small acts of resistance for something that's unfair, or for some structure of power that can't justify itself. It is pretty pathetic. It is immensely pathetic. If that kingdom is so thin-skinned that a person telling truths about that kingdom on whatever, in an interview or whatever, is enough to bring down the kingdom. That's a terrifying reality if you're that small, that thin-skinned, or your power base is that fickle. It's amazing. It's amazing. This guy deserves a clap of the hand. This guy deserves to be put into any other category that you're going to put somebody who's a push for human rights. He's suffering for human rights. That's what it boils down to. All right, I'm going to end this. Yeah, I'm going to end this. I'm going to put the article in the bottom so you guys can see it. So, Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, rate, subscribe, and of course, you could always support the work through Patreon. Thank you.